Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. In today's video, we're making some fun rustic-y, vintage style ornaments. They're very quick and easy to do and very inexpensive. They make great ornaments for your tree, great package toppers or Christmas gifts. So let's get started. All right, so for this first ornament, we're gonna use this metal word, joy. This came in a 3-pack from the Dollar Tree. I think it has joy, believe, and welcome maybe, but I'm gonna paint it. I think I'd already previously painted it, which is why it wasn't just a plain metal, but we're gonna paint it red. I'm just using an acrylic paint. The sponge brush, like doing this pouncing, seems to work better than brushing on this type of material. I'm using a heat gun to dry it in between. Just be careful because if it's too hot, it can make the paint tacky and it can obviously make the metal hot. But I gave it 2 coats on both sides just so that if the ornament turns around, it looks pretty from the back, even though you won't be able to read it, obviously. And we're going to just also give that a coat of Mod Podge. Paint tends to chip off of metal. So the base for my ornament is this beaded ornament ring wreath. I don't know what you call it, but it is from Hobby Lobby. And I don't remember how many came in a pack, but it came in multiples, and Hobby Lobby Christmas is at least 50% off. And then I marked on the beads with a pencil just to know where to put the glue. They do turn, so I had to be very careful. You could also, I didn't want to put the glue on the word because I was afraid it would harden pretty quickly because metal is cooler. But you could use like super glue gel, would work really good for that as well. And then I just have some Christmas greenery scraps, and I'm just kind of gluing them together to make a little bit of a, I don't know, garland or swag type of thing at the top. Once again, the beads turn, so I helped secure this to the word a little bit so that the beads wouldn't turn and then the greenery wouldn't be like in the right place. And then I made a little bow out of some red raffia. I'll show you that later because I'm going to do the same on another one of the ornaments. And I'm hot gluing that to the center. And that also helped kind of keep the beads in place as well. And I love how this one came out. It's so sweet. It looks a little vintagey to me. Let me know what you think. It's a good size without being like too big, but I love the bright pops of red. I love traditional colors when it comes to Christmas, so I was thrilled with how this one came out. For this next one, I have this, I think it was just called like a hanging decor or something from Hobby Lobby, their patriotic summer stuff. When I got it when it was like 90% off, so I paid very little for it. I actually got a couple of them. I previously used one in another ornament DIY video. But I pulled the bead off and it was already red, but I wanted it brighter red. And then I was like, actually, I want to dull it down a little bit. So I went in with some gold metallic paint and I'm just using a baby wipe and I'm just kind of like, well, you see what I'm doing, like rubbing it on a little bit. So it ends up being like a little bit textured, not really smooth. And I just had this on a wooden skewer. That's kind of a handy way to paint beads rather, more specifically. And then moving on to the ornament itself, I'm going to start by sanding off the word best I can because I'm going to paint this with just some white paint and I'm using acrylic paint, so I knew it wouldn't cover as good as like a darker color, so I wanted to sand that down first. And this did take a couple of coats. I could have used my Waverly chalk paint, but I'm getting pretty low on that. But I just gave this a couple of coats. And then once that was done, I went in with my Hippie Crafter paint markers. I have not used these, I think, since like, it's been almost a year. I kind of forgot about them. Now, I had used a lot of my greens previously, so I didn't have a lot of ink left in them, but I'm going to just do a sketch kind of a Christmas tree or of a pine tree, really. You could also use a small paintbrush. I am speeding this up a little bit, but I ended up making the trunk a little bit wider in the end. But I just did the little kind of like, I don't know, elementary way of making a little pine tree. And then I went back in and kind of filled it in. And then we're going to go in with another shade of green and just make sure that you're drying it in between. It is paint, even though they come in a marker. But I love the paint markers because it's really easy to kind of control, whereas a paintbrush can be harder. But if you use a good small paintbrush, I think you could do it easily with that too. So here I am going in with like another shade of green, making the trunk a little bit bigger. You don't have to do this perfectly. This one is really supposed to kind of look like a hand-painted, handmade ornament. I think these ornaments would be really great as little tags, like on the top of gifts. And I'm going in with a little bit of white here as well. But I love making a couple ornaments every year for our tree. It's just kind of something fun to have. But they also make really great gifts. And then I'm going in with a yellow marker, and I didn't like it for my star. And then I didn't like it, so I went in with this a little bit more orangey one, and it was nice. But then afterwards, I remembered I had this like puff paint or fabric paint. This is from Hobby Lobby, and I had picked up a few colors when they had them on clearance. They were only 49 cents each. And so I went in and did the star with this, and I really liked how that came out. It has a fine tip on it, but then it does kind of come out a little bit. So instead of just continuing to pour more on, I used my little skewer to kind of spread it out very carefully, making sure I still had all of the points and so that it actually looked like a star. And then we're going to put our bead back on. You can put like a little bit of glue or tape at the end of the twine to help feed it through. I just wet my fingers, and so then dampening the twine, and that helped just kind of make a little bit of a point to it and twisted it through as I went through the bead. I love how this bead came out with the red and then the gold on top. I thought it was really pretty and muted. And then we're just gonna tie a knot once again at the top of that ornament, and you can kind of see, I wanted to show you the ornaments on the tree, but obviously there's a lot of like lighting and shadowing, but I still think it looks pretty and gives you a pretty good idea about it. This one is not a big ornament, but it is a little bit longer. Anyways, love how this one came out. All right, so for our final DIY, I have this Christmas tree ornament. This is from the Dollar Tree, and I'm going to take my wire cutters and we're just going to snip off some of this star. It's not perfect, but in the end, it actually worked out really perfect. You couldn't tell, but you can smooth it out more if you wanted to. I was planning on having a bow at the top that was going to cover all of it, which isn't how it worked out, but in the end, you still can't see it. So I sanded down at the edges, and we're going to put a nice coat of Mod Podge. Now, I am deciding to do both sides of this because, once again, it's an ornament, and it could turn, or you could see it from different sides. So I just thought to make it look pretty, we would go ahead and do both sides. So I'm going to do a good coat, not an overly thick coat, but a good coat of Mod Podge on both sides of the ornament, and then we're going to let this dry completely. And then I went to my craft paper. I had a hard time with that word. And I have this rustic Christmas pack from Hobby Lobby that I had picked up on, I think when it was like half off a while ago, and so I didn't pay very much for it, and there's a lot of paper in there. They're smaller pieces, but it works for most of my crafts. And we're going to do the iron-on method for Mod Podge, or yeah, with Mod Podge. Is it the iron-on method for decoupaging? Is that the way to say it? I don't know. But you want to steam an iron with no steam, a piece of parchment paper, and you just lay that on top and smooth that out. And I'm going to do that on both sides. Now, heating it up will reactivate the Mod Podge, and you'll have a seamless, it'll adhere seamlessly. Now, I'm trying the lighter method to burn off the paper. I've done this before, but I struggled a little bit with this one, so I'm gonna go in and trim it off more and then do it again. I'm gonna show you the process, but I'm gonna explain to you what I would do if I were you to do it differently. I think the reason I had a hard time with it is because the paper was thicker, and I also had both sides. So I think I would next time do one side at a time. Use the iron-on method on one side, burn it off, then do the other side. But it ended up working. I just kind of burned it off, and then like as it was burning, like tapped it with the lighter to get the paper to like disintegrate and fall off. And I just went that around and did the whole thing. You could also use the sandpaper method or trace it out to the exact fitting. I feel like I'm not good at that, so I never use that method. But just use this method with caution, okay? And then I'm going to just go ahead and use the iron one more time because some of the corners hadn't stuck really well, so I just wanted to make sure it was on there really good. And then I'm going to use this pokey tool. I don't know what it's called. I'm going to call it a pokey tool. I got it from the Dollar Tree, and I poked the whole back open. And then I am feeding both ends in and putting the ends through the loop and tying a knot. And this way the ornament will be hanging straight on. If I just tied it in a knot, it would have turned the ornament. So that's why I decided to do it that way. And here is that red raffia that I used on, the first DIY. And I'm just showing you, I'm making a tiny little finger bow. So it was a little bit challenging, but I just took my time. This is like majorly sped up, wrapped it around my fingers, took another piece. Now the raffia is pretty sturdy and I could tie a knot in it, but it can also break on you. So when I'm gonna attach this, I'm gonna just use hot glue right there, and that'll also help hold that on. I didn't put a bow on both sides because I really do have a front and back to this, but this way the back side with the paper at least looks finished. I love traditional looks when it comes to Christmas, so I love this like rustic vintage feel, and I thought this was really cute. Let me know which one of these ornaments is your favorite. Do you make ornaments every year? Is that something your family does? I absolutely love it. I have ornaments on my tree from my childhood that my mom gave me when she was downsizing, gave to several of my sisters, well, all of my sisters. We got to pick some. Anyways, I love having those passed down ornaments on my tree. Anyways, that's gonna do it for today's video. If you liked it, please give it a thumbs up. If you're new, I would love it if you would subscribe to my channel. See you next time.